Welcome to this edition of Marketing Research. Today, we're going to talk about qualitative research and some of the important aspects of qualitative research that can be very powerful for researchers doing marketing research. When I worked in the marketing research industry, one of our best clients was Robert Barrier. His firm is called Spring International now. It's still in Narberth, Pennsylvania. Robert's retired, but here's one of the great quotes that he shared about his job really was to interview senior leaders in firms, like CEOs, chief operating officers, presidents of firms. So he says he made his living interviewing senior executives. He always arrived 30 minutes early for each appointment. Always wrote a thank you note to anyone at the firm who helped me that day. In short, your mom was right. Courtesy is indispensable to success. So writing a thank you note to the CEO's secretary is a way to let her know that you care about the help she gave and that when you need her help in the future, she's more likely to give it to you. With regards to going to the field, 80% of total project costs many times come from field costs. And many times that's providing financial incentives to respondents. The thing to keep in mind here is that deadlines matter to keep things moving. When you're working with professional data collection firms, they want to keep things moving because they want to get to the next project and continue to make money. However, you might prove to be a bottleneck for them, so don't let that happen. Also, ethics, these issues come up. You're working with better paid employees now, but they're the ones out there that are collecting the research for you. And so giving them reasonable deadlines is a way to respect them. Motivating the field staff in terms of a phone call center, being there for a briefing that they would have before they begin their data collection. Tell them to be firm but not pushy, but also you want to convey the importance of your project. Incent the respondents. Their time is valuable. You show respect for that by giving them a financial incentive. Might be $5, might be more, but the message here is that they deserve a reward for the time that they give to you in your research project. And then finally, the international dimension of research. If you're going to online surveys in another language, it always takes more space to put the words when you translate into another language. It's just a phenomena of, I guess, linguistics, but you should count on that. So if you have a very tightly packed space on the page for your words, allow for more than that when you're going overseas. Robert Barrier says he really cared about the way that interviewers on the phone spoke and recruited interviewees and people that would engage them. So it should not be slapdash. It should be people professional who are presenting their best sales effort really to win people into agreeing to participate in this study. Robert says after years of doing qualitative research, the best interviewers are like a smart waitress. So when you think about a smart waitress, that waitress or that waiter is not there at your table all the time telling you about their day. They are anticipating what you want to tell them and ready to record and asking a clarification question. They go do it, they reappear, they move it along. So they have many things to do and their time is valuable and they respect your time. The process in data collection is selecting these field workers, training them, supervising them, and actually checking that they've done the work and then evaluating these field workers. So training of field workers, it really, is their online demeanor, their if it's on the phone, their demeanor on the phone with them, they have to be bring some energy and winsomeness to the task. So it is like a sales, outside sales call when they do that. And so training is involved in this to when the respondent to agree to participate in the study. Training field workers here, probing is extremely important. So you're just not, we're accepting just a yes or no answer. If that's all you need to collect, then do that. But in qualitative research and interviewing, long interviews, we want more than that. We want stories from consumers about how they use the product, how they think about the product. So the key probe is just tell me more. Here's some other ways to kind of signal to somebody to keep going with you. These are the tracks of your transcript later that are going to be valuable to you. So training field workers, you want to record the responses during the interview, and you want to, I guess, end the interview in a way that is pleasing. It could be that, this is just contributing to the conduct of research in the marketing research industry. So collectively in society, people feel good about participating in studies. If you do a long interview with someone, for them, it's like they've just been involved in like watching a movie, when they come out of the cinema, like, whoa, they're coming back to their previous life. They will enjoy it. You probably as an interviewer, it's going to be more taxing, more draining. You've focused on keeping it going. You haven't talked a lot. It's all been about listening. But a good thing to look forward to is that with a long interview that's conducted well, the respondents feel good about being heard. They don't experience that a lot in their lives. So people want to hear from them and give it priority, and that feels good. So in the interview in a positive way, with gratitude and thanking them for their time. Validating field work, supervisors will call 10 to 25% of respondents just to inquire how things went and, how long the study went. So they're checking to make sure that things were done right, things were done in a professional way. In terms of improving response rates, giving prior notification to respondents, in other words, maybe recruiting them through text or mail and setting up a time, and then presenting the incentives for them, and then doing that might be monetary or non-monetary, and then delivering on those. Combining field methods makes sense out there. We used to do what were called phone, mail, phone studies. So we would recruit through the phone, send a survey, and then once the survey was completed, would collect the data through phone. So that expedited the process and assured that the respondents, engaged fully. For a conjoint analysis, we'd have a set of cards, maybe 16 to 27 cards with different configurations of a new product that we were thinking about, and so we would ask the respondents to sort those from best to worst, from top to bottom, put a rubber band around those, and then we would call and just ask about those. So that again expedited the data collection effort. The U.S. Census Bureau, turns out they are the best at getting reluctant respondents to participate in their census. So they will send people directly to apartments and homes to multiple times to get the survey, the census data collected here. There are some occasions, one of them was a field study I participated in where our client was a local Wendy's, and the drive-through customers were extremely important to the manager of the Wendy's. We wanted to interview them, but interviewing them as they're driving through, they don't want to talk then. So we would basically give them a card, let them know that we're going to be calling, and we would do that. And so then they would, get a reward later for doing that. So there are some times when you would recruit in person and then collect data in another mode. Qualitative research, you can ask any question in qualitative research. You're not locked into the set of questions that are on a survey. Anything that comes into your view or seems to be relevant to the topic or the line of talk that your customer is doing, that can be done. And so in that way, qualitative research is very good at addressing deep motivations of consumers and maybe the true reasons that they are buying your product. If you just quickly ask somebody why did they buy your product, they'll give you a rational answer. It was available, or it was the lowest price. And we know that that's no those. Yes, accessibility is important and price is important, but those aren't the only reasons that, Pringles potato chips has been a success over decades. So what is it about those potato chips that, are important to the brand? Research designs, they can be exploratory. So you're just trying to understand a phenomenon like a drop in sales. Descriptive research, maybe counting like what percentage of customers are likely to resubscribe to your magazine next time. Predictive research, looking at relationships between attitude and actually purchasing the product. Those are all possible research designs, and using all of them can be valuable and actually is a intelligent way to go about research. Use them all. Maybe not in the same study, but over time, you're going to be wanting to bring each of those methods in, particularly if you're in a client company, so that you can stay on top of consumer phenomena and emerging issues and trends. For quantitative research methods, principally using questionnaires and large samples, usually descriptive and predictive in nature, and trying to gain insights, but that have a measurable error component to them. So you can understand with a level of precision how much maybe two groups, males versus females, are satisfied with regards to your product and your brand. So in that way, with the error estimation, you can actually say that is a significant difference. We need to pay attention to it and see if it's moving over time. For qualitative research, should be surprises in any qualitative research project. If it's totally confirmatory, the researchers probably did not open their eyes and move the project beyond what was expected. So you do want to get to why in these studies. Are your informed opinion or your theories about what is influencing customer behavior? But there should be surprises. That's the joy of qualitative research, or one of the joys. So qualitative research can be completed quickly. There is this richness of data. And it is interesting that if you ask firms, hey, as an academic, hey, can we have qualitative research results to share with our students? For whatever reason, they never turn loose of that. So they're more likely to turn loose like last year's customer satisfaction study or something. So it's the data seems to be intimate and there's a lot of richness to it. So it could be misinterpreted by others, perhaps in the wrong hands. So they want to maintain control of that. Qualitative research lacks generalizability. So although you can gain some strong theory from qualitative research projects, but I guess you really should go to quantitative studies to bring in that degree of error estimation so you'd understand with what degree of precision these results apply to different customer segments, for example. In-depth interviews, I really like these. A lot of practitioners are, I think, naively just in love with focus groups, but focus groups, we'll talk about them coming up, but they have limitations. IDIs, you're sitting down with one person and hearing them and going and probing and hearing their stories. And so they are extremely valuable. They do take time. But they are just essential to grounding yourself into the way customers view your brand, think about your brand, talk about your brand, and dream about your brand. Focus group interviews, You bring small groups together. There would be a focus group moderator. He'd have some, or she would have talking points, but it's not a in-person simultaneous survey. You want to have some opening activities so that a group identity forms and people feel comfortable working with each other. And then you would go into more general questions and then move along to more specific questions. And they can be very lively, fun. The moderators are very talented. For managers who are not researchers, they can actually come to the focus group facility and watch from behind a one-way mirror. When they do this, it becomes theater out there. But the managers don't have to be there. Uh, but it seems to be part of corporate culture managers like to come in to tell others in their firms that, yes, I was just at a focus group last Monday and I heard some amazing things or some surprising things. So the focus group works with the topic, the recruitment, which is important. And you don't want to if you had 10 focus group participants, you don't want 9 of the wrong type there. So these need to be the ones that matter to your brand and in your study. You prepare a guide. The moderator would do this, or you do this in conjunction with the moderator. Choose a location and then recruit 6 to 12 respondents, actually doing them with as little as 3. If the 3 are informed respondents, for example, they might be physicians, and they're expensive to recruit. You're probably looking at $600 a piece to get them there for 2 hours if you can get them. So that's enough. They are engaged in their medical practices and they'd have a lively conversation, probably have disagreements about things. I could see it would be fun and lively there. So then you conduct a 90 to 120 minute session. And then after that, you would analyze the session and write up a report. A friend of mine, Seth Ginsberg, he was a focus group moderator and accomplished researcher in the advertising field. He would work late after the focus groups and deliver basically a one-page summary and deliver that by email to his client-side researcher. So that was the first thing that they came in and read in the morning. So that was the way he managed his consulting practice as a focus group moderator. So the moderator's guide, you begin the session, there's a main session, and you might have them do tasks, role playing. A lot of things can be done in there. I've heard and seen of role playing as vegetables, a stalk of celery, and how that celery feels in the produce section of the store. So right now it compares to a Del Monte stalk of celery. So those, fun things and activities the moderators are versed in doing, and they are creative. Let's just put it that way. So you shouldn't restrict them if you want creativity from them. The debriefing, there's then later content analysis going, and usually there's 3 to 4 focus groups, or let's say 4 focus groups done in 3 different cities. And the reason for that is so that, you're gaining more generalizability about your study and its topic of interest, the phenomena that you're investigating. And it's also manageable. So it's not going on for weeks. It would probably be done in 1 week, maybe 10 days, and then you're getting to the end of the project. Focus group interviews, again, you can bring in any question in there. There is this, you can watch and listen to users of your brand and your competitor's brand talk about the brands. And even you can actually have them debate about the brands, which is better, or what occasions is this brand better than the other. So there's richness in that. So there's also you can gauge commitment to the ideas that people have. If the moderator challenges a respondent, like, to what degree do you really believe that? Or if somebody gave you that another brand and they gave you a $1 coupon on it, would you use that? So all of those, you can gauge commitment. Groupthink actually is part of the focus group. If you have 10 respondents in your focus group, you have one data point. So their comments get wound up. So it's not like you did 4 focus groups with 10 respondents each, then you have a sample of 40. No, you have a sample of 4. So the group think happens, so people are working together and they're kind of giving their own shared ideas about things. And that's one of the limitations to focus groups, and that should be kept in mind. Now, if that ethnography is coming to us from the field of anthropology, also sociology, some in psychology, but really it's this extended immersion in the context of your informants. And back in the day in anthropology, researchers from the developed world, Britain and the United States mostly, would go to faraway exotic places and they would be with these tribal people for an extended period, 9 months to 2 years. And then what they were trying to understand was how these people organized their society. And then these anthropology researchers would write about their data for the next 10 to 15 years. So really their career was based on that. So today, ethnography is used by brand researchers. They're not doing it for 2 years, but I think committed client-side researchers want to keep their pulse on customers and weaving in ethnographic or immersive field studies, going into people's homes, having them give them tours of the kitchen, seeing where their brand, a dishwasher detergent, actually is located, how they use it, their thoughts, feelings about it in that context, and just look at the other things that are there in that kitchen and actually the degree of messiness of it or tidiness of it. All that is informative. Case studies can be valuable. And so, now you're focusing on like maybe one group of consumers, maybe tracking them over time, or maybe one consumer, tracking that consumer over time, coming back to them, and it's a case study. It could be in business to business, one client, and then focusing on them and studying them over time. There are some traps in case study research. There's a book called Good to Great. Your boss and your firm might think this is the best book they've ever read, but criticisms of Jim Collins's book, Good to Great, are these. That first, the sampling included halo effects. So Jim he focused on 11 top firms, and he just looked at those. So he didn't look at, there's no control group, so he didn't look at another group that were just selected at random, and then he followed those and then made comparisons to what he was finding in his top group. No, that didn't happen. It was just one group, the top firms. And, interestingly, his book was published in 2001. Some of these firms have been acquired or gone out of business since then, or been lapsed into major fines by the Federal Trade Administration. So there's problems with it. And also, Jim tended to confuse correlation with causation. So just because these successful firms had a well-admired program of philanthropy, that didn't mean that they had the philanthropy first and that caused them to be great. It could have been that they became successful and they had extra cash, and so then they started to do philanthropy, but it didn't cause their success in the marketplace. Projective techniques can be reused. Word association test, sentence completion test, Zaltman metaphor elicitation technique. I've used this. We'll talk about it more in another slide deck that you'll see soon. And the very rich data and very thought-provoking for managers. So we'll be talking about that. Observation methods. These can be just observing physical behaviors of customers in retailing outlets, for example. They can be videoed. How could they be doing that? Actually, probably at most stores, there's a little sign at the front and says, surprise, you're on camera now. Basically, it's for theft protection. So, but by walking in the store, you agree to be videoed. So the researchers can use that to, see how people move about the store, how they touch brands, or examine produce in the produce section, that kind of thing. Uh, Yogi Berra played for the New York Yankees. He was with 14 World Series teams for the New York Yankees. He was a catcher. He was the most valuable player 3 times in his career. After his career began, after he served 3 years on a Navy ship during World War II. This is almost unbelievable. He was 5'7", weighed 185 pounds, was a catcher. So just players aren't that size these days; they're bigger. But anyway, he had a penchant for saying things kind of off the top of his head that turned out to be non sequiturs. So in other words, they didn't really uh, match up or line up. But he was known to say you can observe a lot by watching. And so there is, I think what he meant to say, you can learn a lot by watching. Yes, observation is important. And a lot of times it's uh, relatively inexpensive to do. So there's these different observation methods. You can be direct or indirect. So with indirect, you're actually having somebody else count the observations or something like that. Or it could be at a cash register and you're reading receipts, later on what went through. Awareness, structure, and then the observing mechanism. Trained human observers are a technological device. So these days, technological devices can be very powerful. And in the realm of AI, we're probably going to be seeing some, eye-popping observation in the future. We've already seen that. I mean, just conducting operations for yourself on the internet or going to Amazon or other web pages, the cookies are there, you're being followed. There are some moves to move away from cookies and basically avoid some of the ethical traps with that. But we do know that, if you're interested in, let's say Adidas sneakers that on Amazon.com, then you go later to other websites. Somehow sneakers or even Adidas sneakers show up there on the sidebar for suggesting that you check them out there. So that's being done through these digital cookies. Scanner-based panels, you're signing up for participating, and you can have a card that you swipe at the Safeway or Albertson stores or the Kroger when you leave, and all your purchases go into a database for a company like AC Nielsen. So the observation methods, the benefits, they capture actual behavior. So it's not somebody just talking favorably about a brand. It's actually their behavior. But you really don't have the why on what would lead to such behaviors most of the time. So you're still left with, how did we get here to this behavior? And that is important for brand managers and consumer researchers. So there's social media monitoring now, and it does have, so it's kind of like monitoring posts, just understanding how people are talking about your brand. And most of the major brands are doing that at least in a passive way. So they're looking for brands are very critical, talk about the brands, or might even be a product defect that needs to be addressed, or spoilage for, let's say, a canned meat product or something like that. So the brand would be jumping on that to fix that as soon as possible. There are these weaknesses of social media monitoring, costs, how accurate is the monitoring, and it probably just gives you some ideas about and also I guess it could be distorted. Your competitors could be posting about your brand and it could be totally false. There are the sentiment analysis, and I guess going from thinking about the world of social media, So there could be web scraping, for example, or what posts are put out there on the web, and then text analysis is done, and then a sentiment classification. Is this a positive comment, neutral, or a negative comment? In the realm of AI, this can be done readily. In previous time, the sentiment analysis was expensive to do, and it was human intensive. But now in the world of AI, probably a lot of AI can be applied here for little cost, and then maybe even come up with more meaningful classifications rather than just positive, neutral, or negative. This is Robert Kozinets. He's the founder or one of the leaders in ethnography, and he is a skilled ethnographer. He's not the Marshall School at the University of Southern California. He's with the School of Communications there. But anyway, he is a someone to pay attention to. And so this idea of going to across the internet, maybe joining groups or community groups on the internet and interacting with people, looking at what they're posting, the symbols, making interpretations about this, all this can be done from one's office. So, but there are some traps with that or biases that can be brought into your studies, and Robert addressed those in his book. There can be these online communities. That's one of these emerging methods that Robert is ethnography is helpful with. There's also, we're moving into this realm of biometrics, facial analysis, and in early 2000s, the movie The Minority Report came out, and there Tom Cruise, the protagonist, was in a world where before he walked into a store, his retinas were examined and his identity was known, and then a lot of other information was connected with that. So the movie was about a future world where these biometrics and facial analysis were prevalent. So fingerprints, space between your eyes and your nose. Well, it turns out that the Communist Party in China uses that extensively and actually grades citizens on their citizens' behavior. And so it is definitely a realm of Big Brother happening there in China. So it raises ethical issues here for us in our own country about how this data would be used. And I think there's definitely some ethical concerns on that and what might happen in the future. Well, thank you for listening. We look forward to you join us and we delve into more projective techniques in our next video. Thank you.